print on demand paperbacks. What does that look like? Like, sometimes I think that even though it's 2020 and self-publishing has been a force in the publishing world for at least a decade now, a lot of people don't know what it would look like if you print your own paperbacks. So today I'm going to talk about exactly that. I'm going to talk about how the easiest way to print paperbacks and a little bit like a second option, the slicker option, and those two options are KDP print and Ingram Spark. And there are other options as well, but those are the two I'm going to talk about in this video. So here are two copies of my book, Reckless at Heart, and I'm going to show them to you like this. Let's see if I can zoom in. There we go. See the difference there? So these are both print on demand books, right? So there's the cover, right? There's the spine. They look pretty similar. Like this. This one actually has an error on it. It's one of my few remaining random black dot paperbacks. But they look essentially the same. This one though is very floppy and fancy. I know floppy doesn't sound like a fancy word, but one of the problems with print on demand books, and we're going to get to this a little bit later in the video, is how much of a brick the KDP books can be, because the paper is kind of heavier than regular mass market paperbacks, and even heavier than printer run trade paperback books. But this is the new groundwood paper from Ingram Spark, and it's beautiful. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so print on demand paperbacks, particularly right now in the pandemic. You can print your own paperbacks using a print-on-demand POD process, which gets you onto the digital retailers in exactly the same way that most publishers are. So particularly now in 2020, there isn't a heck of a lot of difference between the ways you can access books published by a publisher and books that are self-published. But do they look the same as books printed in bulk? Well, that's a good question, but I definitely think that Ingram Sparks with this new groundwood has made huge leaps and bounds in that direction. So let's get to it, shall we? So the first option, I'm holding up to, I think on video they look identical. The first option is KDP print. And KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, is Amazon's foray, like their portal rather, into self-publishing. So it's how, as a self-publisher, I access listing almost anything on Amazon. What you do is you go into KDP, the same place where you publish your ebooks, and you say, I want to start a paperback, and what you need to upload are two PDF files, so a PDF interior and a PDF cover wrap. And I'll go into that a little bit of detail after I explain the other option. The other option is Ingram Spark. The other option I use, I should say, is Ingram Spark. There are other options. Barnes & Noble has one, has a paperback option, and I think a hardcover option too on Nook Press, but I don't use Nook Press directly. Lulu is another place where people print paperbacks, but I don't use them. But KDP is absolutely seamless if you already publish ebooks. Ingram Spark, it's yet another dashboard to visit, and they charge money. But I really need to underline this. If anybody from Ingram Sparks watches this video, I don't know if they ever would, but if they do, please just do away with the cost to publish, because I know that you always have a code. You always have a code that people can use. And if you are a self-published author who has visited the Ingram Spark website and the listing fee, that $49 to list a book, has been been prohibitive or been a barrier to getting started, there's always a code. Literally, if you Google Ingram Spark discount code, you'll probably find one. It will probably be on their own blog. So Ingram Spark technically has a cost to entry. KDP does not, but Ingram Spark doesn't really have a cost to entry anymore. They haven't for years, if you know to look for that code first. And they're often circulated in author groups if you are a member of a professional organization. You might find one through your professional organization. They usually have a code during Nano, and those codes usually work for 3 to 6 months after they post them. So I always look for a code. I have never paid IngramSpark anything to upload or make a revision. I always look for a code. If I can't find one, I will email them. If I can't get a code, then what I do is I wait until there is a code, because it's not really time sensitive. What I like about IngramSpark as opposed to KDP is that you you can offer your books at 55% wholesale price for retailers and librarians. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. So you need 2 things. You need your PDF and you need your cover wrap. If your cover wraps, literally, if your image wraps all the way around, then you can use the same cover file for IngramSpark and for KDP. If you have a hard color spine, then you might want to have your cover designer do a specific cover for IngramSpark, because the spine measurement, they're not identical. Let's wait for those to zoom in. They're not identical, and that's in part because of the paper, right? So each printer uses a slightly different printer. That being said, one reason why I really like the wrap all the way around is because IngramSpark covers will get printed by Amazon. So what happens with any print-on-demand book, unless you're exclusive to Amazon, but why would you be? Any print-on-demand book gets loaded into a catalog. And then those books are printed on a print-on-demand espresso printer at the point, they're printed where they're going to be shipped. So for example, if I load my book through IngramSparks, the PDF interior and the PDF cover, those will go into a catalog and they will get listed on Amazon. So like in theory, you don't need to list on Amazon, but you will, and I'm going to get to that when I get to the percentages. And so Amazon, they fulfill orders placed out of the IngramSpark catalog because they have a printer. And so sometimes people say, I have my paperback on Amazon and I have my paperback on IngramSpark, and frankly, I'm not seeing any sales on my Amazon dashboard. Why is that? I know readers have bought my paperback on Amazon. Probably they have bought the IngramSpark edition because of the percentages, and so Amazon is prioritizing the IngramSpark listing. It's very confusing. Very confusing. So basically, the way the paperback pricing works, and it's completely different from ebook pricing. The way the paperback pricing works is you set a wholesale price. For example, I actually don't know what my wholesale price is for this, but let's say I set it at $17.99. On Amazon, the default for books that are listed on Amazon is they take 40%. So they take 40% of the wholesale price. Then the cost of printing is deducted, or maybe the cost of printing is deducted first, and then it's a cut. And you make 60% of what's remaining. No, that's not right. Anyway, I don't know. I might figure it out. It doesn't matter. What you need to know is that there isn't a significant room there for Amazon to discount. So at most, because you get paid a fixed amount, you set the wholesale price, then you say, like Amazon will tell you on the little calculator page how much you're going to make per print sale. You will make that. It doesn't matter if they discount it. So that's it. So paper, which is completely different from ebook pricing. So they have the right to set your paperback price, or a third party retailer has the right to set your paperback price at whatever they want. You get paid per printing at a fixed amount. IngramSparks is exactly the same way, but what they give you is a scale. You can set it at that 40% wholesale, or up to 55%. So sorry, the 40% is the discount. It's a wholesaler discount. So you can set a 55% wholesaler discount at IngramSpark, and I don't think you can set that on KDP. If you have, I've never noticed. So that means that your wholesale price, in order to cover the cost, the fixed cost of printing. So for example, my fixed cost of printing one of these books might be like $5 US. So in order to cover that, then plus have enough buffer room for something else. I don't know. It needs to be like my minimum list price on this might be like $9.15 or something like that. If I took that as my list price, I would make $0 on the sale of that. So I want to bump it up by a couple bucks. So if they say the minimum is $9.15, I might set that price at $12.99, and the calculator will tell me. And then I think I make 60% of the difference between that minimum, which isn't exactly the cost of printing. It's the cost of printing plus other things. Anyway, so there's a percentage that there's this chunk of money, and you decide how much of that you're willing to share with the retailer. And so you want to, so your list price is significantly higher than the wholesale cost, and the bigger a discount you offer to the retailer, the higher that retail price needs to be in order for you to still make some money. So I could set my price at $14.99 on Amazon, but I might need to set it at $17.99 on IngramSpark. I think that was really confusing, but if you can see that it's kind of confusing for me, then maybe that brings you some comfort that it's confusing for you. It is very confusing. The point is that we often balk at how expensive paperback prices are to set. But do we ever balk at that as readers? No, we don't. So raise your paperback prices. If there's one takeaway from this video, it's raise your paperback prices. Ugh. All right, I had to take a break there to recharge my camera battery, and now I don't really remember where I was, but we're just gonna keep going because yeah. Anyway, so this groundwood paper from IngramSpark is brand new, and I'm very excited about it, which is why I thought I would do this video. At the start of the video I talked about how KDP, the paper, come on, zoom, focus. Focus. You know. Anyway, it's a brick. I can't seem to get it to focus anymore. I don't know why. But it's a brick, and that's the only part that makes it look kind of different than a traditional published book. And so I was very excited this, like, the difference in weight is significant. And you can see, let me turn it over so you can see, like when I try to, like, this one bends better. This one doesn't bend very much. It's a solid brick. And interestingly, I have trouble taking these through airports. Hold on. That's not a problem right now. Pandemic joke. But this looks like a solid brick on the security scan, like on the x-ray. So then they have to open up my carry-on and be like, what are all these books? And then they want to know why I have 10 books about a prime minister. And then I have to explain that I wrote it, and well, that's kind of fun, actually. So anyway, but this book is light, and the paper flows as you read it. So I'm very excited about this. What I'm going to do is probably go back through IngramSpark and change all the paper on those books to groundwood. It's only available in the US, I think. So apologies to any Aussies watching this. Oh, that's another really good point on the difference between, and I think that every Aussie watching this might know this, but for those who are in North America who next year might go to a book signing, next year, am I being optimistic? 2022 might go to a book signing in Australia, is KDP, for like some sort of weird tax reason, cannot ship books, physical books, to Australia. So if you want to print physical books in Australia, you must use Ingram's. So So that's important to note, which is actually how I ended up on Ingram's in the first place. But once I switched over, I started selling books regularly every month to libraries and booksellers in the UK, in Australia, in the US, and in Canada, which I never used to do because a lot of booksellers and librarians, well, a lot of librarians can't order books from the KDP catalog, but they can order them from Ingram's. And a lot of booksellers won't because Amazon's a competitor. That makes sense. So it's worthwhile putting your books into IngramSpark if you have some time. Like, it's a good, what am I trying to say? If time is super limited, don't make this a top priority. It's a small amount of income compared to digital book sales. But if you, particularly like if you want an admin task that like you can't write today, but you can do something, open an IngramSpark's account and then start putting some books on and just make it like a little thing that you do every so often. There is a way to port books from KDP to IngramSpark. I have not done it because when my co-writer did it, they messed up her legal name, then made it public for a short period of time, and that kind of freaked me out, although my legal name is not a secret, but I just didn't like that the metadata didn't port over properly, and so I just decided to do it manually. ISBNs, final point here. If you port books over, it'll use the same ISBN. If you set up a second edition manually, then you need a separate ISBN number. If you are in the US, IngramSpark will give you an ISBN, just like they will, just like KDP will. I had this whole thread on, you know what, we're gonna save that for another video. We're gonna do a whole video on ISBN numbers. But yeah, that's my, long story short, I just want to show off pretty books. So there we go. This one is the paperback from Ingram Sparks, and that I don't think the video properly understands just how pretty this groundwood is. Like, it looks, let's not do a spoilery. It looks so good. Zoom. It looks so, so, so good. I think this is probably backwards. Promph. And it just is, I just want to, see? Let's do that. Should I make a GIF of myself doing this? Anyway. Alright. I actually didn't have as much to say about Ingram's versus KDP as I thought I did. This was a rambly video, but if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'm a fan of listing the paperback at both. Oh, I probably should have said that earlier in the video. You listed at KDP. Turn off expanded distribution, and then you list it at IngramSpark. Don't worry if your IngramSpark price is higher than your Amazon price. Those booksellers will discount it. They'll have just a higher percentage discount, and it'll probably end up costing about the same in the end. But you can raise your Amazon price to match your IngramSpark's price. Kind of. There's no right answer there. When it comes to paperback pricing, you don't need to be as consistent as you do with ebook pricing. I think I probably meant to, and then I went off on a big tangent. Well, that's what happens when your battery dies and you don't remember what you said in the first half of the video. So there we go. There are my thoughts on paperback pricing. And let me know if you have any questions. If you enjoy the rambling, feel free to subscribe. My other videos are probably more professional than this, but frankly, we're like 120 days into this whole pandemic thing, so you get what you get.